And now about scalp reduction. I had this procedure done years ago when I started losing my hair. The surgeon cut and removed a large portion of my balding scalp and pulled the remaining areas of hair together and sewed them back together. I know my hair looks like cotton candy, but who gives a shit? Some people have a full head of hair and still look like dog shit. Senator Kennedy of Mississippi is a perfect example. I actually call him Rooster because when he talks, he actually sounds like a goddamn rooster. He doesn't even speak like a normal American, but who cares? I certainly don't, because he kisses my ass from here to Saturn, just like Lying Ted and Low Energy Jeb. And by the way, who the hell names their kid Jeb anyway? When I hear a bullshit name like Jeb, I immediately think of Green Acres or some other hillbilly show. But frankly, I do love hillbillies who support me. The dumber the better. In fact, Marge Green is a perfect example. Yes, she's dumb as a cork, but in the end, she's got my balls. Oh, I mean...
Good evening, everybody. You've landed on Divided We Stand on Facebook and on YouTube. It is Saturday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time on March the 16th. If you're not a member of Divided We Stand, we ask that you become a subscriber. We are not monetized. We're not looking for any money. We just simply want to commiserate with those who think alike. And we also have a very successful Facebook group page. That page, you'll have to answer a few questions on a survey before you become a member. But we ask you to become a part of that because that is the larger group. Although this week, we've had quite a week on YouTube. A lot of the shorts have gone viral. And we have a lot of new subscribers. So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But the more the merrier. And we'll see what happens. Well, at this point in time, I'd like to introduce my co-host, journalist, former educator, and author, David Price. Dave, I haven't talked to you for a week. How have you been down there in Arlington?
Well, another crazy week. This show is informal and, we don't have a dialogue or we don't have a script. But I take some notes. And usually, I'll find things throughout the week and I'll set them aside. And Brian, I would say honestly, and I'm not using hyperbole here, I think I encountered maybe at least 25, if not a few more, stories this week that if we were to have a lead story, we could have it. But I'm going to, and it continues. I mean, it just comes at you. I was just looking at on X, the social media site formerly known as Twitter, which is really, you don't need to go anymore to Truth Social or the dark web or any place to see just how crazy Trumpian America is becoming. But Donald's out tonight speaking, or earlier today, and I'm just going to read. I think I'll start with this tonight. This is the man who right now is leading in the polls. He is a former president.
Dave, I'm going to interrupt. Can you just move your camera, I guess,
Up, down?
down
Yeah,
a little bit.
Down. There we are.
Good.
Yeah, I had a smaller view. Is that better?
That's perfect.
I know. Well, that could be. So this is a direct quote from Donald Trump, issued a few hours ago. Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. Now, what the hell does that mean? I don't know, but it certainly sounds, and he has a history of that, as violence is going to be a calling card of his, both the threat, basically saying, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath. Now, it's Donald Trump, so you take it with a grain of salt. But the thing that you look at, if you watch it, is that people are cheering behind him. So tonight we'll look at some of the crazy conspiracy theories out there, the week in politics, when culture collides with controversy, and there's just a whole lot going on. So, Brian, what's got you going this week?
All right, Dave, as you said, there's a lot going on. But there's one thing that has stuck out in my head this week, and it just happened yesterday. And that's Peter Navarro. He's a former White House advisor, of course, for Trump. I don't want to say President Trump, but he is to report to jail on Monday. And this smacks of the Steve Bannon thing. Now, he doesn't have a pardon from Trump right now because he can't. But he is having an emergency appeal to the Supreme Court. Now, why has this got me so upset? Well, you know that I've been upset because Steve Bannon, did his appeal, and it's just been going on and on and on, which smacks of the Trump delay processes. You win if you delay, and it has worked. He has won just about every time. So Bannon's still free. Bannon still talks shit, crazy shit, and he's not served one day in jail. Now, Peter Navarro, it looks like he's in a different situation, and he has to depend on the Supreme Court now, not the judge, because the judge in the Navarro case, that's it. And the appeals courts already said that's it. So he goes to the Supreme Court, and you would think that they would just throw this the hell out and say, that's that, you're going to jail. And maybe that will be the case. However, let's just look at what has happened, whether they've gone to jail, not gone to jail, had pardons. Look at all these nefarious characters like Bannon, Stone, Manafort, Flynn, on down the line. All of them have gone free. And I can add Kyle Rittenhouse, who's kind of like over here, but he's still what I would consider, part of the Trump team. And they've been getting away with it. And the good thing is things have been really coming to a head right now. And there is no other place to go but the Supreme Court for Navarro, for Peter Navarro. Of course, I hope the Supreme Court will say, the hell with that. We're not going to give you anything. But, Dave, what happens if the Supreme Court does the same bullshit that Trump applauds? In other words, says, okay, we'll look into this. So you look into it and you set a later date beyond the point that we have, a possibility of an election. I mean, it's just, it frightens me because I'm afraid that this is the indicator, just like the last one with the Supreme Court with the 9-0 that was kind of a 6-3 in its own way. But that type of decision making, Dave, it frightens me, although it may give me that confirmed sensation that there is no doubt that we are in hell right now, because it seems like the Supreme Court is no more than a zoning board for Donald Trump right now. What say you?
Be hard to argue with that. We do supposedly have a nation of laws and innocent until proven guilty, and all these things. But I just look at it this way, Brian. At this point, Donald Trump to me is many things, but he's almost like a King Midas in reverse. Everything the man touches, or everything that touches him, turns to shit. Literally. We had that story. How could you even believe that a couple months ago, the big story was Donald Trump couldn't control his shit? I mean, and that's, maybe that's true on a literal, and maybe it's true on a figurative level. You're absolutely right. If you look at the court, it's 6-3. That would be 6 conservatives, 3 liberals, 3 of whom were supported and nominated by Donald Trump, which leads a lot of people to say the fix is in.
Right.
It's hard to dispute that. But as these cases come through, a gentleman I'm talking about a little bit later that I place some blame on, though, for some of this is Merrick Garland. I think it's time that we point some fingers at Merrick, but we'll come to that. So with the Supreme Court, all we can say is you expect a conservative type decision. And as we'll also prove tonight, hopefully, with a few quotes, that a conservative type decision now means a Trump favored decision. Right,
which you would think that a conservative court would used to say, the hell with anybody. You're not getting through an appeal here.
Yeah. And of course, everybody has their beliefs. I think Clarence Thomas is an abomination. I try to stay away from racial things. I mean, in terms of speaking for black people, because I'm a lot of things, but I'm not black. But if I were a black person, I would think Clarence Thomas is definitely an Uncle Tom, clearly. Mm-hmm. And I would be skeptical of any Republican. And tonight might be the last time I use the word Republican forever.
But I think he's worse than an Uncle Tom because there's a certain thing that makes you feel like he's against black people. I mean,
that's what it would mean. That's what I'm saying with Uncle Tom. Yeah. I think I think he's. I have no idea. I mean, now there's always a professional side and a personal side. I have been told when I was working at the museum and kind of politically connected somewhat from a few people who worked at the court that Clarence Thomas was the nicest of the judges to the people that worked there. Okay, but that doesn't matter to me,
right? Because Hitler petted his dog. I mean, that's nice.
Exactly. So, Brian, I really did struggle tonight, but I think for a lot of reasons, I'm going to talk about something that shocks me from this standpoint. It makes me agree with Donald Trump, Nancy Mace, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I never thought. Never.
Right. Vanilla or chocolate? Vanilla, right?
No. Okay. It is amazing. I think it will go down as the most unique vote in the, 118th Congress, whatever number it is. And that would be the vote this week on TikTok. Now, Brian, to help our viewers out, what do you know about TikTok?
My understanding, well, first of all, it's very, very popular with kids because they're constantly making videos. I see it in school. That's number one. And that seems to be the thing. They're shorts. They're quick videos. And it is, as far as I know, a Chinese-controlled company. And I know that we're trying to limit TikTok because it's so popular they could use it for nefarious reasons. I keep using that word. I shouldn't do that. President Biden is pushing for TikTok in the United States to have an American CEO in control of TikTok here, so they can still make their money over there. But and it's the same thing with the Chinese cars. They're afraid that they're going to use certain technologies, and that'll be that. So that's what I know about TikTok.
And that's really, I mean, yes, that's kind of basic, and that's what's causing some of the problems. But here's what I mean: you talk about a 9-0 Supreme Court, which we had. That was shocking to me. A decision, but this came out of committee in the House, 50-0. Came out of committee with 50 members, Republicans and Democrats, supporting this. Right now, it goes to the floor, and the vote turns out to be 352-65. Now, and I also this makes me agree with Vivek Ramaswamy. He is also against it. And what what this is, I think it's it opens a Pandora's box and it doesn't go far enough. Okay. Basically, yes, of course we should be concerned about Communist Chinese. But what about data sharing with Facebook? What about Twitter? What about these other things?
And, a student told me something about this too.
Trev 85 is onto something that I agree with also. It kind of depends on what it is. I mean, what it is. They actually process everything through Austin, Texas, with controls there. Now, so you could say it's not Chinese controlled. It is. The problem with the Chinese, any Chinese controlling anything, the communists have it written that anything you use and do there can be turned over and used by the government. So indeed, it does pose a threat. Now, of course, each congressperson, didn't get up and say why they were for it, why they were against it. But what I find a little disturbing, and you got to be consistent. I find it a little disconcerting too, when government. My understanding of the First Amendment is that government shall make no laws, infringing the right of free speech. Now, again, it gets debatable. They also have a right to domestic insurances of domestic peace, and so I don't know. But what I did find interesting is, of course, more than I remember a wise old person once told me, you can tell what a person does, but you have no idea why they do it, and that's true. Mm-hmm. They might give you an opinion or a reason or a motive, but you don't know that that's true. But of course, in this modern age of social media, everyone is assigning that they know what the meaning is. And what this came down to, I thought was interesting, the reaction. First of all, as you said, Brian, it is something for the young. And Congress skewers, 40 years over the average age. You're young in Congress if you're, 35, Mm-hmm. And TikTok is a young thing. And what it's been noticing is that it's tremendously weighted with young people. And young people currently now, by really substantial numbers, are supporting the Palestinian cause over the Israeli cause. And so the American Defense League did come out and say that was, that they felt TikTok was damaging to them. And of course, then the link comes, well, the reason they're doing this, right? The reason they're doing this is because it's the Jewish lobby, Zionist, and it goes all over the place. What I think, again, the next test will be what the Senate does. Mm-hmm. And, there's no guarantee that the senators will follow suit because their concerns are different. And we'll have to see. And then, of course, it would go, if it does pass the Senate, it will probably pass the Senate in altered form. And then the House may want it back. And then if eventually it does clear both houses, it will go to the president for his signature. Now, that poses, he has said that if they pass the bill, he will sign it, which is fine. The problem becomes for him is that he does not really have rising support among the young. So does that become, do they blame him? But again, issue not clear. People said, Congress wants to ban TikTok. That is not what they want to do. They want it to be American controlled. Is that the same as a ban? No. They're giving them 6 months to change. Now, you remember Steve Mnuchin, the Secretary Treasurer for a while?
God, yes. Unfortunately,
yes. He announced this week that he's putting together a group of investors to buy TikTok. So, the question then becomes, does the Chinese Communist Party, if they do envision using TikTok as a weapon against the West, do they want to give up that control? Even if Mnuchin comes up with I can't even begin to figure these offers. They're in billions of dollars, right, for these social media. It's just incredible. But AOC, Nancy Mace.
Dave, I'm going to interrupt you here with TikTok. I'm just not seeing how China's necessarily not involved in this.
Well, it is. It's a Chinese, but it depends on where where you say it originates. Do you know what I mean? It's like, okay, give you an example.
Then what? I mean, if again, let's forget about that. If what are they so worried about then?
Well, they're worried about it. It is of Chinese origin, and the Communist Party.
But if they have no control over it, why are they worried about it? If that's the case, if the Senate or the Congress is not worried about it,
well, that gets interesting too. We're talking.
And I'm pleading ignorance here, by the way. I'm not saying. I'm just seeing things here.
Well, even if you study it, you really don't get it. There are reports. Again, I'm going to tackle conspiracy theories tonight. There's not conspiracy. There is some belief on those who support TikTok that what really behind it, as I said, you've got this one thing about it's a Jewish American Defense League, but also they claim that tech giants like Facebook, like X, these sites, it's taking views from them, and Congress is, I think that Congress is reacting to that. In other words, pressure from American business. It just really, the thing is, Brian, with all these things, and it's unfortunate it's Trump out there, and by the way, speaking of Trump supported it, and now is opposed to it.
You're talking about TikTok. Supported TikTok, then now is opposed to it.
Which I also find interesting because he controls, this is why this TikTok thing is so fascinating. He is the single person who stopped the immigration bill from proceeding. It was Donald Trump. And the reason he stopped it, he told the Republicans.
Right, that I understand.
Do not go with that because I want to make this a campaign issue and you should want to too. And it is a huge issue.
Absolutely. It was the biggest issue in 2016.
Right. So, my question would be, why would the Republicans in the House, by overwhelming numbers, diss their man? And there were Democrats, like I said, AOC was part of it. Ro Cannon from California. So it kind of, I'll tell you what, I guess Marjorie Taylor Greene maybe got a new press release person because she actually made sense, in up to a point, and then of course she went off. But this idea of First Amendment, right? It is a First Amendment question. Now, so maybe it should be.
Is it that because it is a private company, is it not?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. You can still the government cannot restrict speech. That's what the First Amendment says. The government can't. You can. Right. I can. This website.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. That's good.
The government can't, and that's where people. You always say, "Well, I had students who did that." Mr. Price, I'm going to say whatever I want. I got a First Amendment right. Okay, stop. Here we go. Forget what we're going to do today. Macbeth will sit over here, and we're going to talk about First Amendment, so that you don't say something that makes you look ludicrous. All right. Tuck and ticks. I will leave. Put that up again. I want to see what the. I will leave China in a millisecond if China government demanded influence, and they would relocate in Bangladesh or Japan, Korea, or Vietnam. Now, that's interesting what Trev says, because the real issue is what do you do about personal data? And what do you do about influences? Look, I could make a strong argument that X, the social media site formerly known as Twitter, should be shut down tonight. Elon Musk is, I don't even know what he is. He's horrid. And what he's done, it is 100 times worse than it's ever been on there. So I just think it's something interesting, something to look at. But moving on,
I don't know. For me, again, I'm an outsider. I don't appreciate TikTok in any way or form because it is obviously for young kids. It's nothing for me. So I don't see it as a threat. But again, maybe I don't know anything about this, and I couldn't care less if it was a Chinese company. We have Chinese drones. We have Chinese electronics. I don't know what's right. I have no idea.
That was the thing that was interesting, because Marjorie Taylor Greene, in her, like I said, almost lucid defense of her position, asked, she said, I wonder how many of us voting on this have Apple phones made in China. Now that again, that's just, look, I don't know. But what I'm saying is I just found it interesting on two levels. Number one, it's the only thing Congress has agreed on this year, pretty much, by that number. If you haven't seen any 50 to 0 numbers coming out of there. And secondly, it's one of the few things that the Republicans have gone against Trump on. So there's something there.
Was there any type of behind the doors meeting about this, or was?
Well, yes, there's some talk that, and again, see this talk, and I hate to do rumors, but you see out there, there's some talk that some TikTok executives made a trip to Mar-a-Lago and some money. No, but again, see, that's part of it. That's, legal bribery. Campaign contributions are legal bribery.
Right.
Right. If I'm going to give $1 million to someone, I'm going to want something for it. So we don't know, Brian.
All right.
But it's just something we're going to have to look at. Now,
I mean, it's just, there's so many intrusions in technology anyway at this point. It just doesn't faze me. I'm so much more worried about Trump.
Well, I'm more worried about a lot of things. I mean, I'm more worried about guns.
Absolutely. They hurt.
But First Amendment is important to me. So until I'm satisfied, I can't endorse the move at this point. But I don't vote, right? I mean, I'm not in Congress. Let's look at some people in Congress in the news this week. Nancy Mace, who actually was one of the ones who voted against TikTok or against the TikTok ban. She went on George Stephanopoulos.
Right. I saw that.
And that just opened up a whole can of worms. And
wasn't that a shit show? Talking about drama.
Well, I mean, what we know as fact is this. At least believe to be fact. Nancy Mace, and I feel sorry for her, was a victim of a sexual assault. That is established by record. And, it's not a secret. And she's spoken about it before. And she's actually spoken to groups, anti-rape groups. And Stephanopoulos asked her a question. How do you reconcile your position with a rapist? And then, of course, it went off the rails. Now, again, Americans, you started, you're talking about the legal system. It's a very complex thing to understand. And I'm not a lawyer and I don't know that much. What little bit I do know comes from the years I was a reporter, and I was baffled all the time about, the intricacies of law. But what goes on, this is, the Jean Carroll case, and it's a civil case, and that's different than a criminal case, okay? In a civil case, you just have to have more than half the jury on your side to get successful conclusion to your case. In criminal court, it must be 12 jurors, unanimous, for a guilty plea. But Trump was, by the judge, adjudicated to pay, what was it, 83 something million dollars and up, which means that the court of the land agrees that Donald Trump defamed Miss Carroll when he said he didn't know her, he didn't rape her. So it is, you can't say, and people use these words, he's not a convicted rapist, but that's kind of semantical. You know what I mean? So,
right.
I mean, he is, he's been found by the court to be a rapist, but not convicted by a jury.
Right.
So that's something that will go on. And Nancy Mace is, running that now. Nancy Mace needs to stay in the news because one of her, she is on the list, and growing list, of persons of interest to be the vice president. So, it behooves her. Another woman who made big news, big enough to make opening of Saturday Night Live right after we signed off our show last week, Katie Britt from Alabama.
Oh,
okay. And it's funny. Like I said, people have a professional life and a personal life. And my son is a professor, well, actually at 3 universities, but one of them is the University of Alabama. And and Katie is an Alabaman, and she went to the law school at Alabama. And Michael's friendly with a number of the law professors who were there when she, still teaching. When she was, And they're very disappointed because they said Katie was brilliant, brilliant. That was the description they would use. And they were just expecting these big things. And of course, she sold her soul, not to the company store, but to the Trumpian Republican Party. And they're kind of sad. You know, I said we really had high hopes and for her. But of course, that's what you have to do. So, and again, she started with the libs are attacking me. I was just a mom and I was upset. Bullshit. You blew it, girl. It was a terrible presentation.
Absolutely.
Judy Washington, never have you posted anything that's any more true. Musk is a threat to American, not just American diversity, to all of America. Now, in case we think, well, you know, it'll get better. I don't know, Brian, this is kind of an obscure thing, but I think, again, once again, it's important for us and our listeners and viewers to know. Does the name Michelle Morrow mean anything to you? It did not to me until this week, but.
I don't, I want to say that I've heard that name before, but I don't know.
You probably haven't, to be honest with you, until this week. Unless you were a resident of North Carolina, then you might have heard it. Michelle Morrow is the Republican nominee for the superintendent of public instruction in the state of North Carolina, which would be the most important, or second probably most important, educational position in the state of North Carolina. Here's what she's done. She's called for the executions of both
Barack Obama. That's what I remember.
And Joe Biden. She suggested that Barack Obama be executed on a pay-per-view in front of a firing squad so that he could make money off of it. She also felt that both Hillary Clinton and Chuck Schumer should be executed for treason. And she's the Trumpian.
Well, that's what they want. They want us simply to disappear.
Yeah. Now, you know, how do you justify education with somebody like that? Well, let's get back to the boss. The boss is in the news a lot. That would be the Republican boss, the Trumpian boss. And this week he talked about one of his favorite people again, Adolf Hitler. Now, he didn't talk about it this week. He talked about it earlier, but a new book came out. And his chief of staff, General John Kelly, talked about what Trump talked to him about. And he said they were at this meeting, and Trump was just saying how much he admired Adolf Hitler. And he said, Hitler did some good things. Okay. The good thing he did, he took his fucking life. That's what he did. That was the only good thing, was the ending of his life that I can see.
Although he was a coward for doing that.
No, but that was a good thing. He got rid of it. I don't care. He got rid of himself.
The Russians would have, believe me, they would have done
absolutely. But so just imagine, I mean, you know, you're sitting in, maybe not the Oval Office, but you're sitting in a room in the White House, and you're sitting there, and Trump's saying these things. And I guess Kelly kind of looked at him and said, I know what he called him. You guys knew he called him Mr. President. He said, Mr. President, what good things did he do? And Trump said, well, he got the economy working, which shows Trump's mind, right?
Right, because he's thinking money.
And again, this is Kelly saying what transpired. Kelly said, well, you know, I had to point out to him that that kind of disregarded the Holocaust and the roughly 400,000 American GIs who lost their lives.
And 13.6 million Russian soldiers, or Soviet soldiers who died.
Right.
And we have to include every other army that.
Well, Hitler, you know, Trump, of course, can't be bested by anyone. So he comes back with this statement. But he inspired such loyalty from high-ranking Nazi officials. Now, that is not true. There were, at least that we know of, 3 attempts on his life by Nazi generals and insiders. And
we should have seen once he died how the people kind of like, oh, we didn't want to be on that side. I mean,
but it was, you know, so again, what we have to be aware of, all of us, and we have to point out to people, is Trump for the next few months, as he has continued, will show us what a Trump administration will look like.
Absolutely.
Now, someone else in the news this week, as I said, just what was on and on and on, was your favorite vice president, Mike Pence. And Mike came out on television. He didn't do it on Twitter. He came out and he said, I will not be supporting Donald Trump. And he made history with that remark. He is the first vice president in American history not to support the president in which he served.
And now he's going to have to go into hiding, correct?
Well, basically, yes. Because what happened, that was out for about a day. And then these reports started. Give me just a minute here. So I really want to find.
Sure, take your time.
One thing here, if I can find it.
Put the music up while you're doing it.
Yeah.
Very mysterious music.
I got it. Okay. So Mike Pence has been accused now of being responsible for the deaths of 280 children. He's a pedophile child killer. I always find the numbers interesting.
I mean, it's absurd, Dave. It's funny in an absurd way, but it's diabolical. It's just
right. I said, what did they come in? Hey, Mike, how many kids did you kill today? I ate 3 and barbecued 4 and shot 7. Oh, that's not good enough. That's down from last week. Fuck that. Why 280? Where the hell does that come from? But what it does, Brian, what it is insidious. It gets in people's mind that it's a number. Well, they wouldn't. Yeah, and I've heard people say, "Well, they wouldn't use a number if it wasn't
right." It was
true.
it's like odd even pricing. It has a psychological effect.
Exactly. So you were spot on. Pence is already, experiencing that, and of course, it is violent. It's a violent America, but one side is more violent than the other. No
well,
question
Dave,
about
can if you remember, there was this movie. I think I was too young to go to our movies at the time. But I always remember the word frenzy, and I never saw the movie, but the word frenzy, people whipped up in a frenzy. I had this idea about it, and now that word's come back to my mind, and I think of this country. It's like a frenzy that's going on.
It is. Well, look, the words that we use we really don't have words to describe what's going on because the words are cheap. We've used them. It's like I always tell my students, please don't use the word awesome because it takes away from the power of awesome. Awesome is, hey, out there, look at that spaceship just landed.
All right, that's awesome.
That's
right?
awesome, man. Or not making fun of biblical people. All of a sudden, here comes Jesus Christ walking down the street. Wow, is that awesome? And I'm going to have to change my thinking.
And by the way, that's another thing, too. Because of the conflicts, you look in the Christian and Judaic world, how, especially I think in the Christian world, because in the Christian world, it's like in the United States, it's like 50-50. You've got your liberal Christians versus your conservatives and
evangelicals.
And they're rated, look, like, was it, she said, I want to execute them tomorrow. It's sickening. I'm sure she's Christian, right? I mean, I doubt she's not going to be a superintendent or whatever, or head of the educational system there, being an atheist.
It's something you have to think about too. Like I said, I was talking to my son about a number of things. We talk, sometimes 5 times a week, and a lot of it is sports and politics and what our grandkids are doing. That's really our 3 subjects. But he was saying he was getting a little tired. He even mentioned us. He said, I get a little tired of, divided we stand attacking people in Alabama. And I said, well, they're just memes, Michael. You got to get over that. They're not attacking everybody. Right?
Oh, we are attacking the 2 senators there. That's for sure.
But that's the difference. That's what he was trying to point out. And I think that's true.
And there are people there who love those.
I don't want to attack North Carolina because it's the home of this woman. But Jesus, Christmas, right? They did bring her up. Okay. What else is going on? Well, you're the Russian expert. I would like you, seriously, all joking aside, to maybe ask some of your Russian friends if they're familiar with this name, Tara Reid. I did not know that. I knew who she was, but I learned this week she was
Chances are not. They don't. My friends from Russia tend not to watch television there.
Well, I don't even know, but I did not. I mean, I knew who she is. Okay, she is the sole person on the planet who has lodged a sexual complaint against Joe Biden, and something about he was sexually inappropriate to her. She was on his staff.
How old is she now? That's right. Okay, she was on the staff, so a big age difference. Okay.
Yeah, big day. I mean, she was young then, and she's still, But I did not know this, that she sought political asylum in Russia.
Now, there are Americans that have,
I know
going on over there.
I know that, but I just didn't know. I mean, now
most of them Christians, right-wing Christians, I think it's a better place for them.
And she wanted Americans to know that according to her, there is no safe path back to America. Don't vote for Biden for more war and corruption. Stop their evil. We deserve freedom. Russia is the hero. Wow. Okay.
Now she's saying that from Russia because anything less.
Well,
would get in trouble.
and you know, but I'm gonna have to follow up that. I want to know why she went over there. You know.
Well,
again,
Dave, there are a lot of peculiar Americans who have gone over there, or who are interested in going over there, even during this time period. Because they have that.
Saying, obviously, we know why Snowden went. And Tara Reid's claiming that was. I mean, I just don't see Tara Reid as having had political asylum. I don't see that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Biden does have a hit team after. I don't think so. But
well, Dave, I think it comes down to this, and I'm not a psychologist, but it seems to me that the human brain is so gooey in many cases. Seriously, it's just.
I know.
It seems like you can just convince people through this or that. Again, the odd even pricing in business, or pornography, or whatever it is to get people to have a certain reaction. It's not that difficult if you have a certain type of mind.
Well, yeah, and again, kind of coming back to what we talked about first, all of that, the mind being exposed both to receiving and disseminating ideas is supercharged from even 20 years ago because of social media. We didn't, if you wanted to have a conspiracy theory back in the 1800s, you'd write a letter and 6 months later it would get to England, and but now it's immediate, right? Here's another Russian story. We're talking about Russia. They just had an election, correct?
They had a vote, yes.
A vote. And here's a surprise. Your favorite Russian dictator has reported major election interference from the Ukraine and the U.S. Now,
he's projecting what he's going to do.
Exactly. And what he's done here, right? So, no surprise.
He doesn't really need all that much to give much help. Now they're ready to do it here anyway.
And of course, this week again, the continuing, never-ending saga of Trump and his 4 trials. And there's some disappointing news out of all of them. Again, okay, so the Georgia ruling came down that basically it was a really severe slap toward Fani Willis. Lapse of judgment was in the trial, and she was wrong. Wrong. Now, people get upset about that. What I did like really a lot? The judge took her to task for playing the race card, which she did on the Sunday of Martin Luther King's the day before his birthday, because she kind of indicated it was a black woman and a black. No, what you did, Fani, you did for love. Okay, you and Nate had a sexual relationship while he was married. And that's okay. That's between you and him and his wife and nobody else, except for the fact that you gave him a job. And it was a very important job, which many legal experts in Georgia and other places say he was not qualified to handle. And he made, what did I say, $680,000, I think, out of that.
I don't know exactly.
Out of that work. So, but what the judge did, he kind of remember that story from the Bible or something. Solomon, remember they argued he half the baby or one.
Right.
That's kind of what this judge did. He came back with an interesting ruling. He said, "There's something here that's not quite right, and we're going to deal with it this way. Either you go, Fani, or Nate goes." And Nate, as expected, he stepped aside. But that case is now so friggin' tainted, so tainted. Trump.
It's pretty easy to find one juror, and that'll be it.
Well, yeah, I don't see how they get a conviction with that, with Fani Wilson.
And it should have been easy.
But by the same token, if she removed her office and herself, it would be another 3 years of
Get it started over again.
Right. Um,
She blew
another.
it, basically. She blew
Well,
it.
yeah, she blew it. Now, also in the classified documents case, that was a surprise. Judge Eileen Cannon actually issued a ruling against Trump. She dismissed his argument, the classified documents case, that is unconstitutional vagueness of the Espionage Act. There is no unconstitutional vagueness of that. It says exactly what it did. So again, we all do this. We rush to judgment. We say we know what's going to happen. All her rulings so far have been in favor of Trump, but this one was a major one. This would have been
Right, but
complete.
she couldn't embarrass herself by.
Well, that's
playing
okay.
that
What I'm saying
She
is,
was already in
but-
trouble twice. She's already been scolded.
But what happens is, with all these rules, it allows appeals, not either before or after the fact. So it's still not it's still not the best thing going. The one that disturbed me, because it was going to start, it was going to be my birthday present. It was going to start the day before my birthday, March 25th. And that's the Stormy Daniels payment case in New York City. Did you see what happened there?
It was postponed for a month
Do you know why?
because there was something like a certain thousands of documents that they gave to the Trump attorneys, but they need time to look at it. Although the Trump attorneys didn't want to look at it months ago. I don't know. It's kind of clouded.
Exactly. But what
It's
it
something
was
like that.
your buddy, Merrick Garland, fucked up. Again, Trump's been out of office 3.5 years, right? And you're going to tell me we couldn't have cases? At least one case against him?
He needs to be
By
fired.
now? Pardon me?
He needs to be fired. It would look bad, but
No,
do
he
it.
should have never been hired, okay?
Well, that's true. And
Now,
I'm almost
I'll
glad he wasn't on the Supreme Court. Who knows what would happen there?
Well, I mean, I don't think he's in. I think what he is, I'm guessing, and from what I've read, he's just meticulous. Because I mean, he's never really lost the big cases. I mean, he did the Oklahoma City bomb, but this was a bigger case. Gary, you might be right about that. Who knows? But at this point, we just know that right now,
That would be horrific.
Now, we know about the dysfunction. I thought this was very interesting. The Republicans were supposed to have a retreat this week, right? This weekend. And more than 100 Republicans from Congress decided not to go. They don't like one another, okay? They don't want to be around one another. They disappear. And of course, this week also, we saw the resignation of Colorado Representative Ken Buck. Now, what's big about that? Here's what's big about that. There are a couple things that are big about that. The Republicans are really working under a very small margin right now. They have a 5-vote margin over the Democrats, which means if they lose 3, right, goes to the Democrats. If all the Democrats and just 3 Republicans vote for something, it goes to the Democrats' way. So that's one thing with Buck's resignation. Secondly, he said he just came out and said, Congress is completely dysfunctional. It's not worth it. I'm not putting up with this anymore. And he once was a spokesperson for the radical right. So what that tells us is the one-time radical right is now disenchanted with the new Trumpian radical right. But the big thing for all of us that are Lauren Boebert fans is it spells maybe the end for Boebert. Here's why. We know that Boebert was not going to run in her district for re-election. She moved into Buck's district. And now he's not running, there'll be a special election. And she cannot run for that seat if she's serving in her congressional seat. So she would have to go and run, and she's finishing third. If she's lying, she's saying, this was out to get me and I was ahead in the poll. She wasn't. So, Buck's resignation might have many, many ripples and echoes between now and election day. We've got, what else we got going on? Oh, in case we're wondering, the Republican National Committee, which is supposedly the authority over the Republican Party, this week they fired 90 people. And Laura Trump's daughter-in-law, and a male who was one of the leading election deniers, are now co-chairs of that. And I think what that shows, it's a preview of exactly what will happen. I've been talking to a couple of friends down here who are retired from government agencies, and they said almost everybody there realizes that they might not have a job because Trump will replace everybody he can, and people he can't even, right? Because he's talking about the end of civil service. So we don't know. And if anybody didn't, if there's anybody out there who thinks that Trump is not controlling the party, well, here's Don Jr.'s comment. And I think this is why, when I finish this, I will never again say the word Republican Party. Let's see what Margaret is totally pro-abortion. Does anybody know that? Okay. Donald Trump Jr. says MAGA has taken over the RNC.
Right.
Okay. That Republican Party no longer exists.
Correct.
The move that happened, that's the final blow. Talking about the removal, the replacements. People have to understand that MAGA is the new Republican Party. That is conservatism today. And he's right. So I'm not going to call it the Republican Party. I'm going to call it MAGA. Trumpian MAGA, the Trumpian MAGA Party. And we're getting there. Mr. Trump, of course, with his... Did you see Trump made the Oscar news? Did you see that from Sunday night?
Yes, because I saw Jimmy Kimmel show his tweet. Kimmel was great on the response. Yes.
Yeah, what did he say? He said, wait a minute, isn't it past your jail time?
Yes, right.
And of course, one of the things that we've said on the show, and I urge every comic who has any sense of American pride and belief in the Constitution and the values of democracy to continue to attack Trump because he's so skin thin. Skin's thin. He's probably skin's thin too. The idea that making fun of him, you and I have had this discussion. We disagree a little bit. You still think humiliation is a problem, and you may be right. I'm
not looking to be right. I'm just
no. But I don't think I think it's different. It's not even humiliation. I mean, Trump can't even wrap himself around the word humiliation, but he doesn't like to be mocked. Okay, because he thinks he's this super god figure, and that's what's going on. Donald Trump again this week. I mean, did you just grab from all this stuff? How much? Did you see the photo of him with the family of Lincoln Riley, the young woman from Georgia that was killed?
I don't believe I saw it.
Anyway, you should. Everybody should look at that picture. It's him surrounded with the family members in line. They're all smiling. Now, I understand. It's kind of neat to meet a former president, but everything's in context. Your family member has been killed. They blame it on Biden because it was an immigrant. But Trump's got this his Trumpian smile, and he's holding a picture that he autographed for them and misspelled her name. It's like, well, I don't know, Bri. You got all this, but that's a political thing, and that would be fine if it just stopped there. Okay, if it just stopped there, but it doesn't. Okay, it spreads out into every part of culture. So this week, for whatever reason, I know full moon or whatever, it was a big week. Also, not just for political insanity, but for kind of I don't even know I don't even know how to describe this insanity. It's just a lot of it. So let's look at some. You have April 8th. You know what's scheduled for April 8th?
Is there a primary?
No, it's going to be a solar eclipse. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Now that's fine. We've had solar eclipses before, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Didn't Trump look at one?
Yes, he did. Unfortunately, he didn't go blind, or maybe he did go blind, and we don't know.
Right.
But it'll last an estimated 2 to 4 minutes. But of course, religious wackos and others have gotten a hold of this, and this is one of my favorite crazed conspiracies this week. The track of the where you can see it best, right? They've posted some places, and obviously there'll be rural places. I mean, you're not going to see it real well, at certain places. It's going to be across the sweep of the country, and in some of these places they're isolated, where they say you can go watch. Well, they put out a couple counties have put out alerts, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term, urging people to get some groceries and gas up, because really what's going to happen, they expect a lot of people to come, right? And it's like at Woodstock. You couldn't get stuff at Woodstock because some of these 300,000 people came in. There's not going to be that, but there'll be a lot. But of course now we get a group or a couple groups that are saying it's biblical in nature. And what's going to happen? They took out a map, and this will cross 7 cities named Nineveh. Now Nineveh is a biblical name. It's involved in a story, and they're saying that this is the end of times. So be ready. It's not. Okay? Look, the Bible's a wonderful book. It's a wonderful book as a story. It's got some of the greatest stories ever written. There's no question.
And some of the worst.
They're still interesting. The only characters it doesn't have is the dinosaurs. Has everything else. It's just disgraceful. I'm going like, well, we'll stop that. Then your favorite, the man you sleep with every night, because you have a Mike Lindell pillow, the pillow guy. He promised, damn it, he was going to be on the steps of the Supreme Court on Friday with world-shaking news that would approve.
Always world-shaking news.
Then,
did he show up?
No. He said he was advised it would be too dangerous for him to show up. And so instead, he did say, I have news that will shock the world. To read more, go to Lindell Offenses Fund. So you had to go to his
GoFundMe page.
It's like Donald Trump says he's a billionaire many times over, correct? Then why does he need money? Just logically. Okay.
He really has been lucky. He really, really has.
There's no question, Brian. And then the other one that's been surfacing for a few weeks, we spoke about on the last show, but it has new legs this week. The Bohemian Grove, which is supposedly the sacred site where devil worshippers and Rothschilds and these people come. I never was a Jimmy Buffett fan. I know I should have been almost. I mean, he kind of was an artist that I feel I should have liked. People that I really admire, like Hunter Thompson, loved him, the writer. But I just never was a Buffett fan. But he was one of the ones named this week as going there, along with the Koch brothers and others. And so that was the story. It's a secret club, and it's been. But now they've come up with a new thing. They believe that this is proof of satanical rituals, and they use Freddie Mercury, who happens to be, of course, the gay former lead singer from Queen, and they think now that Bohemian Rhapsody was part of a satanic ritual that is there, and there's some themes that run through these: pedophilia, Satanism, sexual rituals.
It's all just
bullshit.
Exactly. You nailed it, Dave. It's just all bullshit.
But here's another scary point, Brian. It's not just America. Currently, well, one of these really does, but there's some.
Russia goes along for this elite bullshit too.
Well, but here's what you got. Now, I could give 2 hoots about the British royal family. But have you been following it all? If you're on social media,
I try not to.
No, but the Kate Middleton, right? She hasn't been seen for 81 days. They're making up all kinds of stories, but it doesn't help because Kensington Palace, which is this house for the royal family, sent out a clearly doctored picture of her and her children. And it was so bad, the doctoring, that AP, Reuters, and a couple other news agencies, they never do that. They just said, this is a fake photo, right? So that just fuels it, right? More people, and people are so sure. So now The newest today was that she is dead. She was an Illuminati blood sacrifice. And that puts her in the same category as Princess Diana, who also was elevated to be an Illuminati blood sacrifice. And the tunnel, where she was killed in the accident, Diana, is actually a sacred site dedicated to the moon goddess Diana. Stop it. Stop it. You're crazy. You're absolutely insane. Absolutely insane, people. Stop it. But as weird as that is, we got something going on in France. Have you been following that?
That Macron said that he not deny that he'd be willing to use that at some point you could see troops in Ukraine.
Exactly. Okay, so that's what he does, right? And that's true. Okay, I mean that's true. That could happen. Attack a NATO country, whatever. Well, that they don't let it sit there. So now, here's what the story is, and I mean this is all over the French media. It makes is the fact that his wife, Bridget, who is much older than he is, I think she might be 30 years older. Anyway,
oh, really?
Yeah, which started a lot of things. She, even then, it was like and it was a big kind of feminist thing at one point, saying this is kind of cool. A guy who's pretty handsome, and she's attractive, and they have this marriage and they have 3 children. But of course, we can't let that go now. So here's the reports out of. She is actually a man who, as a 40-year-old, when President Macron was 15, she groomed him, changed her gender. She was a part of the Rothschilds. I love that. That Rothschild thing in the Illuminati.
That thing just goes on and on and on.
It'll go on. It's got the life that will live forever. And her real name is Jean-Michel, not Bridget. And in order to cover up this fact that's been unveiled, he is ready to start World War III. Really? Really? So again, misery loves company. It's just not America, but it doesn't. And then the one that does affect us is out of Haiti. Haiti is just...
That's a mess.
I've been there. It is a mess.
And the Dominican Republic is so much different, and they're right next door.
Well, of course, the rationale for racists would be that the Haitians are black. That has nothing to do with it. The Haitians are dirt poor. I've been there. The conditions are horrible. It makes Mexico look... border towns in Mexico look like palatial estates, right? And now it's completely folding because gangs are running the city. There's no question about that. So what happens is Haitians are trying to get out. I would, wouldn't
Absolutely.
you? And so the first avenue of escape is the Dominican Republic, and they're not letting them in. They're trying not to because they don't want it either. Again, it's like the Africans coming to Europe. I mean, it's just. It's, in some ways, is it racist? Yes, but also...
Nobody wants anybody coming these days.
Right. Well, and of course, it doesn't help that Elon Musk is leading this call that, indeed, the gangs are using cannibalism as a terrorist threat to... And they're coming here in numbers. Now, this is Elon Musk retreating, owns the company X. We're kind of circling back to TikTok now. To me, that's as damaging as anything, it could be done. Now, Ron DeSantis, your favorite Florida governor, of course he's going to overreact to it, but I do understand that. You've got boatloads of Haitians, arriving because they want to get out of their country. There's no food. And these world situations, I mean, like Gaza, it's destroyed, But again, that will impact America because, of course, everybody now, not everybody, but the right, the Trumpian party is saying, well, this is just Biden's doing this. No. This is because the world is a fucked up place. And
And
really,
we're all facing termination. I mean, there's no doubt
as
about
really
it.
as
I mean, it happens
America,
anyway.
yeah, but America is still one of the best things going, at least in people's minds, right?
We'll
Now, when
find
you get
out in about 8 months.
it might be a different story. Okay, so, but that doesn't end there. We still got other things going on, Brian, this week, this crazy, crazy week. And we're going to move now to Trumpian MAGA boycotts. 3 boycotts circulated this week, so we'll just touch them a little bit. One is Planet Fitness. Americans are being urged by MAGA people to boycott Planet Fitness because this one woman claims that she was banned from a Planet Fitness gym in California for confronting a transgender in the woman's locker room. A man was shaving and a 12-year-old girl was there. No proof, one woman, but now we're going to boycott
Right.
Planet Fitness. The second boycott this week was called against Tyson Foods. 1,200. There's a plant a plant in Iowa, I believe it was, that's going to be closed, and 1,200 workers in this small town will be out of work. It's like they're 15% of the city or something. It's a small community. And then the claim is that Tyson is planning to hire 2,500 asylum immigrants who will make, and again, they come up with these figures, who will make $16.50 an hour and get benefits. So MAGA is calling for a boycott of Tyson products, but they just don't want Tyson. They have listed all the companies that use Tyson products. And Brian, that is a complete list of every almost every chain in America.
Hmm.
That'll be about these will be about as successful as the New York truckers ban,
Right.
which fell apart. And then the last one is one that gets back to racism, which is one of Judy's points that she makes so eloquently about the racism in America. Advil, can't take Advil no more because I think it was 2023, they came up with this thing called the Pain Equity Project because Morehouse College, leading Black university in Atlanta, had done some studies that Black Americans were really not receiving the same pain treatments, or I shouldn't say that, pain diagnoses, I guess, rather than treatments. That 3 out of 4 Black people suffering from pain believe that there's a bias in the medical field toward them. So Advil, being a relatively rich company, decided that what it would do is they would send some money to fund Morehouse and some other places to determine how bad this problem is and what to do about it. Well, now the non-racist MAGA party says you must not take Advil because it favors Black people, because it's diversity, equity, and whatever the other thing.
I'm so sick of it.
I stop here, but I want to do one more before I continue. This is just this crazy week. None of that I talked about has happened in any. It was all since we've had our last show.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said tonight, 4 things developed as I was just going through the last notes. Only one I spoke of was what Trump said about the bloodbath. America's favorite family, the Kennedys, are back in the news a lot this week. And we're tied in with Donald Trump and tied in with politics. So the first way that happened was your favorite judge, Andrew Napolitano, was quoted this week extensively that on the, what would have been, I think it was like right the week, 1 week after Donald Trump left office, Trump got a hold of him and said, Napolitano said, look, you had promised the American people, which he did, you would reveal who killed John Kennedy. Now, do you know who killed John Kennedy? I don't know who killed John Kennedy. Gary Peacock, one of our listeners, we've talked about that for years. Gary's a student of the Kennedy. I do know this. I do know that I've been in Dallas. Stood at the window where Lee Harvey Oswald supposedly fired the shots. He had to be a hell of a Marxist. I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions. And it didn't help that Jack Ruby assassinated Oswald before he had a chance to speak. But anyway, supposedly Trump told the judge, if they showed you what they showed me, you wouldn't have released it either. Now, either Trump is a liar, the judge is a liar. I mean, Trump can't keep anything in. You know, he would have said so. And I really do. I mean, I'm very skeptical. But of course, well, I guess there was some talk about Lincoln too. But I think, you know, when you look at conspiracies, and the Kennedy death was probably the beginning of the big American conspiracies. I've been to a number of talks devoted to it down here in D.C. And then the disowned Kennedy, and he should be disowned, Robert Kennedy Jr., who's running for president of the United States on the Independent. I don't know if you saw it. He named his short list of possible. Well, he didn't name it. It was released. And two names on that. Well, three names stuck out on this. First one to me was...
One of them from the Green Party or no?
No. The first one, well, actually two stuck out. The first was Jesse the Body Ventura.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
I'm for that. I'm for that. Now, of course, Jesse does have a political background. He did win as an independent governor, right? But he's 72. So, you know, that's an aging problem. The one that I found more interesting was former Green Bay Packer, played one series for New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Now, Aaron and Kennedy do share anti-COVID, anti-vaccine beliefs. It got Kennedy a lot of play. But it also opened up the other side of the thing. Immediately when Rodgers was named, and the articles that we're talking about, and the tweets and the Facebook posts and stuff that we're talking about, basically indicated that it was kind of going to be Rodgers, even though there were other names in there. What's the guy? I can't even remember. The guy who does dirty jobs, Mike Rowe, is that it? Anyway,
yeah, Mike Rowe was, yeah.
Yeah, he was on that list. And then some said they turned it down, you know, that they were asking. Then tonight there was some millionaires who was, everybody's saying, was here. You know, was going to be it. And she was a new name that I hadn't seen before. But Rodgers came in. And then Rodgers, it was labeled, had denied, had been a Sandy Hook denier. Mm-hmm. And he comes back, but he wasn't. And what all this means to me, Brian, is we have lost in America. I'm claiming it tonight. It's something I've known for a while, but tonight, there is no such thing as truth in America anymore.
No.
None. You don't know what to believe. And you've got the fact, I mean, all these things tonight, people believe, they're not true, but they believe them. And then you've got, above all, a president who has no basis in reality or truth. Lord of the Lies, Donald Trump. And, you know, we all should be concerned about what AI can do. You're experimenting with it now and playing with it, and you're having fun with it.
Awfully bad. You would not be very scared of AI if you looked at my stuff, but it's more of a joke.
But there are people right now.
But there were some people actually, just the very fact that they would say, this is bad AI, like they don't realize I'm just doing it for humor. It is supposed to be bad.
Well, but there are some, I mean, there's 4 photos circulating of Biden and Donald Trump sitting down in the woods talking. That, you know, you can look at it 15 ways for Sunday, right, and it's believable. But then Donald Trump did the ultimate, which now means we won't believe anything. You know, when they had the her hearings this week in Congress, of course, that we could have spent all show on that. I'm just tired of that.
Certainly.
Biden is an old man, okay? But in his first post, Trump said they used AI to create that video. They didn't use AI, but now he's even cheapened AI. Do you know what I mean? Like anybody now can say that's AI. So again, truth is gone.
There you go.
I don't want to say it's hopeless. It's not. The fight continues. Something else, you know, I don't herald movies, but I ran across this week. Brian, coming out in April, a movie I hope is as good as a trailer. It's called Civil War, and it's going to be in modern times. What happens is things we've always talked about.
And
What it'll be? I mean, it's set up interesting. Now it'll be a slam bang, just the same thing as the end of this
Well, I
month.
hope we win in that movie.
Well, it depends on what you consider winning and who's there.
I tell you, if I were Biden and we were losing, I'd shoot him straight up and let him come down.
I don't know, Brian. I mean, I just, it's.
I wouldn't fuck around. I'd say, okay, look, I'm not living like this, and none of us are living like this. You think you won? Forget it. We're all going down.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see. And again, the only thing, my only hope, not my own, your only hope, Obi-Wan Kenobi, no, not that kind of thing. But the idea is that it is a long way. There is no truth would mean the statement is untrue. I'm not sure I understand exactly.
Well, it's like a syllogism kind of thing where you say, okay.
Well, I understand that. But what I'm saying is, like, I'm looking at something now that is a door. Now, I know doors in artificial construction, and it said puerta in Spanish, but it's a door. God damn it, it's a door. We can argue all night. Is it a nice door? Is it a pretty door? Is it a realistic door?
And there's a difference between the word door and an actual door.
But what I'm saying is, I mean, that's where we are. When I say there's no truth, I mean that we can't even agree that anything is true or anything is false. And when nothing is true and nothing is false, how do you balance? How do you make decisions?
Dave, we're in a, and this is really, now we get depressing. We're in a very bad situation here, and maybe it was headed this way. You've kind of alluded to this. You look at other, great societies, and you look at the world today. Most countries are. Humans are so fallible. They're so mean. There are very few good people. I mean, in general. And it's a shame that the rest of us have to suffer because of that. And it's just been suffering and suffering and suffering and suffering. And
well, I suppose we could look at the bright side is if you look at Nancy Mace and Katie Britt and the governor of South Dakota, Ms. Noem. Did you see what she did this week? She made a big ad for a teeth fix-it place in Texas that she went to and got her teeth fixed.
By the way, Texas, did you hear that Pornhub was banned, for example, in Texas, and now that everybody's getting VPNs there?
Well, what's funny is you have all these things you ban it. For anybody who's not familiar with Pornhub, it's like I used to say, I look at Playboys for the articles. I look at Pornhub I look at Pornhub for porn when I want to watch porn. But what I did notice this year, because I hadn't looked for a while, I went on, and in Virginia, I have to now verify that I'm older than 18, which I thought was interesting. So they're using laws. The problem becomes that it's hard to regulate. Now we're circling all the way back to the beginning of the story. It's hard to regulate social media, right? And is porn detrimental? Well, unfortunately, apparently a lot of porn is from sex trafficking and that kind of thing, and that makes it really a bad thing. But is it so bad if someone wants to do that and they release
right?
it?
Well, I'm just thinking that. I mean, I certainly would not be in for a porn ban, but it seems like pornography now. It is. You think of the act, and then now there's all these other things that people think have to happen instead of the one act.
You know what's interesting, and this was a couple years ago. I was writing about it, porn, and so I went on, and what was kind of disturbing, and again I think it reflects where America is at some time. It's like I used to say, watch professional wrestling, watch WWE, and you'd find out kind of where America is, who the good guys are and the bad, because it's all characters. Well, it's kind of that way with porn. Almost all the porn was mother son, right?
Yeah. What is this kind of like mental?
Now sometimes it was step, but I mean, yeah. So who's interested in that?
What is that? I mean, that seems to be where this thing goes. It's bizarre. It used to be like the earliest pornography was, you're talking about the 1910s and people were just doing it, but everything is now we had to go through this and go through this and go through this and go through this. What has happened? It's just, and I'm not here to make a judgment. I'm just saying it seems like here's a fairly simple act, and now they're clouding everything with all kinds of crap.
MAGA evangelicals would tell you that we've lost the Lord. And it is true, Brian. This part is true. Never in America's history have more people identified themselves as non-religious or non-believers in God. But that doesn't mean that you're, on Satan's side.
No.
And they don't get that. But you know what, Brian, I'm getting to a point too where, I started this. One of my big things was that government needed to compromise to be successful. It can't now. It won't. It doesn't. Let's see. Mara failed to grill Mace on the border issue as she blamed Biden. Her fucking bill. Yeah, I know. Gary, you're right. It's Bill loves tits and a pretty face. Well, you better watch it because Brian's more a Bill Maher fan than I am. I'm not a Bill Maher fan.
I've had problems with Bill Maher the last 2 years because, he, mainly because of his attitude toward COVID or anybody who wants to wear a mask, he, outright agreed with, the state of Florida and all this kind of crap.
You got to remember,
he wanted to have an audience. He's got an ego, and that's that.
Well, and as much as I love, and I've always been a Stephen Colbert fan, for example, over Jon Stewart. I think they're both extremely talented. Both extremely talented. But you have to remember, they're entertainers.
Right.
And now, entertainers, whether they want to be or not, they're sucked in. Taylor Swift is a tremendous talent. But now she's, the witch queen of New Orleans because MAGA party is convinced that she's, in.
Sorry to hear that, Jeff. Jeff's always had some issues there to deal with, and it's.
Now, hopefully, and again, it's sort of like that hopes and prayers. I hope your son, wasn't hurt. That's not. It doesn't mean that dismisses it. But, and it does seem, they were talking, you're talking about just the way the world. Tonight, and I'll keep looking at this, I think we're on false information overload. I really do. I think, it's, no truth, what's truth? And you can't talk to anybody because everybody's already made up their minds.
Well, weren't we, I don't want to say doomed, but it was going to head this way. First of all, we have a system where you have such competition and everybody wants to be on top, the egotistical. And it was David Ricardo, the one economist who was capitalist, but he was the one economist who kind of went against, I believe, Adam Smith. Adam Smith talked about the invisible hand. But it didn't, according to Dave Ricardo, and I'm going to paraphrase all this, but it didn't account for the problems you would have when people would try to constantly be ahead of somebody else, and then get into that problem here. And now you have the technology. Now you have to buy my stuff. You have to buy my stuff. And then you have the commercials. Everything, you're inundated, and you just can't take it anymore. There is information overload, whether it's false or it's true. I don't know how a human being can process.
Well, they can't.
All this.
And then, there are a number, maybe I'll talk about it next week. There were a number of about 3, I think, or maybe 4 studies came out this week on failings in education. And of course, that's near to your heart, near to my heart too. And I don't know that we can surmount those, and do what we need to do. And then the last thing I'm going to say tonight is, I don't know if it was Jeff, somebody last week challenged, I think you remember they challenged me, they said, what if you were a dictator for a day?
Right. That was near the end of the show.
And so what I want to do, I want to spread that out. So I'll do like they do, I'll say one thing tonight and until I run out, and then add to it. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to do, the 40 things I would do. So tonight, the first thing I would do if I had unlimited powers, and I'm not going to say, like superpowers, but just could change, I don't have to abide by the Constitution. I don't have to abide by the amendments, which are the Constitution. I don't have to abide by any of the existing laws unless I feel they are just, that kind of thing. I'm going to start with the executive branch. And my first thing would be to abolish the Electoral College. That's where I would start. And the reason I would do that is because the Electoral College was once something needed. Because the votes, we have votes we don't need it. And it's counterproductive.
Right.
Because even though we're not a true democracy, we're a republic, and that's what, no, forget that. We claim to be a democracy. If Donald Trump gets 4 votes and Joe Biden gets 5 votes, I don't care where they're from, Joe Biden wins.
Right.
And it's the same with Donald Trump. Because now, for example, it favors small states, and they're not equal. 13 original colonies become states, correct? Now we've got 50 from coast to coast and over with Alaska and Hawaii. They're 2 different. I read somewhere, now let me get this right, that it's something like one senator in California would be 20, represents 24 million people or something like that. And one senator in Montana represents 400,000 people.
Right.
And each have an equal vote. And that's not good. But so for anyone who was interested, the Dave Price, what he would do, Donald Trump says he wants to be dictator for a day. So I'm going to beat him to it and say, since somebody challenged me. So the first thing I'm going to do is I say, and I don't mean it's most important. I'm not just saying, it's just where I would start. Electoral College, gone. Brian, you're summing up. What you got? You look really,
like I say, I'm
look
tired.
really down and depressed.
Well, I'm again, it goes back to the very beginning of the show with Peter Navarro. I am, for most people, the Peter Navarro thing is not a big thing. I mean, we're talking about Trump and the election, but the Peter Navarro thing, this to me is an indicator, because what I've been following, when I've seen Manafort get away with it, I've seen Stone get away with it, I've seen all of them get away with it, and now we've had these convictions, and now there's no other place to go, because you're just kind of waiting and you get lulled into not thinking about things. But this Navarro thing, I need one victory. I need his ass in jail. First of all, he deserves to be in jail, and we're going to find out if they goddamn stall that thing. Then that's it, because it'd be even worse if they stalled it. I'd rather them just say they'll throw it out, even if they shouldn't. But the fact that they'd say they're going to look at the appeal, they're playing Trump's game. It is Trump's game, and they and they're going to frustrate the rest of us. So they're going to make me angrier and angrier and angrier. I'd rather they just be themselves, be the assholes they are, the zoning board that they are, and just go ahead and let Navarro run. And then, we know what we have here, folks. We have a hurly-burly here, and this is it. So we'll find out. Probably Sunday night, right? Or Monday morning, because he's got to report to jail on Monday. And he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to spend one day in federal prison. And that's federal prison, which is not, this is not, a state prison.
Sing
right. So, but he doesn't want to spend one day there, no more than Manafort or Stone wanted to spend any time there.
And it's true too, Brian. I think your point is very well taken. But I think there's another message that comes out of that. Do Hispanics get the delays? Do blacks get the delays?
Nobody except them.
Because it's money. It's money, Brian. I mean,
but there's money on the other side, and this is different.
Not to the.
I know what you're saying. Yes, you're right. Money is, it's a factor. But what's going on now is political movement.
They can get the best attorneys, right?
Right, but the Supreme Court is not supposed to be bought by money. It is.
Oh, come on!
It's not supposed to. I said.
I know, okay. Right? I know, and I think that is somewhat disturbing.
But what do you think? Okay, look, there's no way for you to know. But if you had to guess, Supreme Court. I have no idea what's going to happen. My guess would be somehow they're going to screw this thing up, and.
Well, they certainly don't have a good track record with it.
Right.
I think. They're going to do what they're going to do. And I mean, that's such a cop-out for me. But what I'm saying is, I'm at a point now where I'm not sure. So since I'm not sure, and I look at the 6'3" makeup, I'm going to figure that they should. Like I'll give you
Well,
an
what
example.
happens if they do? Let's suppose they do the dirty deed. They say, okay, we're going to put this on appeal. We're going to do just like Steve Bannon. We're just going to let him appeal this thing. Then what do you say about the Supreme Court and the future? Because that kind of tells us where the bigger things.
I'm not looking at them to do anything ever good. I mean,
they got to come once. They got to do the right thing.
Well, they have a couple. Well, it says 9-0 is rare. We did see it once in a while. It basically, I look at decisions automatically start 5-4. I mean, I don't know 6-3 because maybe one judge will be picked up on the side, or Roberts will not want to do that. The one that I would worry about tonight, and I hope Biden makes it a campaign issue because it's there. Both Thomas and Alito, in their remarks about Roe v. Wade, they've also indicated that they feel marriage of gay men and women is also not constitutionally protected. And I think, certainly that is a definite possibility. Imagine, people, look, if you love Donald Trump, you're really looking forward to it. But I can't even envision with a 6-3 court behind him, right? I don't, we just have to hope, but it doesn't look good for the Senate to remain Democratic. And the House, it's too close, but you don't know. But political experts have said this is not a favorable year for the Democrats. When you think about this tonight, again, I've dismissed polls, but take them with a grain of salt. Joe Biden's approval rating tonight, I saw, was 38%.
Well, there's nothing wrong with Joe Biden. The problem is the public, and they're uninformed. It's like Jack Johnson. There was nothing wrong with Jack Johnson. There was something wrong with society, and this is exactly the same thing.
And yet, of course, and I'm not playing, both sides. I'm just saying that side, the MAGA side, says it's us that's the problem. So we just have to hope there's more of us than them. And
well, that doesn't even matter because they have the guns.
Well, no, I meant in terms of enough
the votes. Okay, well, even that.
So far
didn't work in 2000 and didn't work in 16.
No, or look, I'm not going to go assassinate Donald Trump. I'm not, but I certainly wouldn't be averse necessarily if someone who felt very strongly.
Oh, well, I wouldn't be averse if he choked on a chicken McNugget tonight, and that would be it.
But and we have to hope there's some things that could happen. I would call on President Obama to break with tradition. Normally, presidents don't get active in elections. I would hope he would go into every large black community in America to campaign for the man who was his vice president.
I think it has to be one in the white community. Everybody keeps telling us that the black community has, and I used to say that too. Like, the black community has to come out for us to win, and it's kind of true. But the white community, the people who are liberal have to come out. It's true. Our responsibility to stop this crap. But you have to look at
minority communities, especially in Illinois, Georgia, North Carolina, states that are in play. Then you have to hope the Hispanic, Latino, Chicano communities in Arizona and Nevada. I don't think Texas is winnable. But we don't know. We don't know what we don't know.
Right.
We've named the states. We don't need to name. I mean, I said the election is going to break down to 7 to 9 states that really matter. Right. You don't live in one.
And how well we are on guard for what will happen in those states, because we keep thinking, well, it's just going to be a vote and it's going to be close, but there's other things happening.
Well, again, Brian, I mean, I don't know. I would assume you'd have to be terminally stupid to be a Democrat in any kind of governmental elected position and not be worried about, the election. Because the good thing is every congressman is up for election too. You know what I mean? So it's not like,
right.
Senators, it's rolling. So
Well, look, I'm saying this, the goo that I talked about, I think our frustration should be at the people. I mean, what else, Dave? I mean,
Well, there isn't. I mean,
this country's fucked up because the people are fucked up. It's
well,
you know.
I'm not gonna. See, I'm still until proven completely wrong. I'm still roughly a third, and a third person. Like I said, with politics, nationally, I think a third
I hope you're
are
right.
MAGA, a third are MAGA, a third are Democrat, and a third don't care. I'll tell you who might decide the election. Again, it may be minorities not coming out. That's what. The other thing is, what do the people who didn't vote for Trump, the Republicans who didn't vote for Trump in the primary, what do they do? You know, do they sit it out? Do they go to? Will they vote for Biden?
I still think they'll vote for Trump.
And see, I'm not so sure about that. I don't know.
We're going to find out, aren't we?
Well, I do sense a little bit of a difference. That there's more anti-Trump feeling in the Republican Party than there was.
Because Nikki Haley is no winner to me. You know what I mean? If they like that,
Oh no, but I'd love it if every Nikki Haley voter felt there was no voted for Nikki because they liked her, but also voted against Trump for the same reasons we're going to vote against him. See, I think everything's in context, Brian.
all right. Well, we're going to find out.
But
So,
here's the context that I would put in. I don't know that Joe Biden is anything, and I do accept old. Actually, if you ask me, Joe Biden is too old to be president, just by an age. Okay, I know what I am at 72.
too old to play NFL football, that's for sure.
And yeah, but I do think he's not the same as he was 4 years ago or 8 years ago or 10 years ago, but it's in context. Will he be a better president than Donald Trump? And the answer is yes.
No president will be better than Donald Trump.
Well, and of course we have support for that because Donald Trump, in the last, 100 historians got together to find the worst president, ranked them, and Donald Trump was last. So, we have to hope educated people, people come out, but it will be, let's say, it will be, but I don't know that the country may be too damn crazy to hold an election
Dave,
by the time we get to it.
I'm almost at the point now where, I'm an atheist, and my whole view of the world has changed since I was a little kid. But now, the one thing that I have to say that is kind of weird, it's kind of like the kind of feeling you get sometimes when you say, well, I chose this career, but then after being in that career for a long time, you say, the oddest thing happened. I think that somehow it was like backwards, that the career chose me. Like the fate was so weird that you say to, and this isn't a religious experience, it's just an odd experience that here we are. I've learned about the history before my life, and I see where we are now, and I say, I'm in a situation now where we could lose it all. We lose the United States, we lose the world with global warming, we lose everything, and you say, hold it, is this some kind of stage that I'm watching that was purposely set up? And I don't have the type of ego to believe that.
No, I know what you mean.
Because I know you're facing it too. But it is so strange. It's just, fate is strange, and
life is strange, Brian. I mean, I think certain things we did take for granted. And it's not like I didn't. I mean, I could understand if I didn't live through a period like 1968, which is, I wasn't aware of the McCarthy. I mean, I was alive then, but like 19. I mean, that was a bad time.
Absolutely.
And
because that could have gotten out of hand to the point where we would have lost it.
But what happens? What I said is, and I've looked at that a lot, and I think the difference. Well, there were many differences, but the big one, and I'm not saying we're not gonna that box to say it. I still think a lot of it that we're seeing is social media.
Right.
It can be great. There's some things out now they've been pushing, like where AI might be an answer for the elderly that feel, lonely or, not friendless. There's going to be some things, but at this point, you go to bed at night, you wake up the next day, and you fight on. That's the way it works.
All right. Well, Dave, thanks again for
Always.
joining me again, and we'll do this now. Next week is going to be
I'm out.
impossible. I can't because I have my anniversary, so I can't. So we'll have to either do a different day or 2 weeks.
I'll let you know.
But let us know. Okay, next week's
All right, Brian.
impossible.
Thank you, everyone.
ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, and stay tuned. We'll do some more shorts on Divided We Stand.
Oh, that's what I wanted to ask. Sorry, I meant to ask that the first thing. Did I hear you correctly when you were doing the intro when I was I was in the green room? Did you say your shorts had a virus, or did you say your shorts went viral? And if they had a virus, is that an STD, or if they went viral, what about your shorts made them viral?
So now we'll
Bye, Brian.
stay tuned for that in 2 weeks. All right, Dave. See ya.